been a troublemaker, I've been a late night player, I've been broke as a joke, I've been a money maker, I've been a record breaker, taking credit as an educator, I've been known to spit the flows and make it shaky, shaky thing, popping, locking, stopping, let it hang. Watch us as we drop this hip hop, it's like it stings. We make a whole room drop and everybody sing. We want the funk, we gotta have that funk. We kick it old school, we think we're so cool. We take it back to the past, we gonna act a fool. Up jumps the middle.
Hello. Welcome to Sports Buzz, a Fanatical View. I am your host, Scott D. Lewis, here live in studio, Comcast Cable, Channel 23, downtown Danbury, Connecticut, on this pretty chilly January 10th. We are moving faster and faster through these playoffs of the NFL, and we're heading to a divisional round after a wild card weekend. Things are just going to zip right by, and we'll be at the Super Bowl before you know it, but we got a full little month of January to get through as the Fatty Roots music comes nice and strong through the speakers, reminding me that you can tune in tonight, as a matter of fact, to see a Fatty Roots live and direct, 10 o'clock tonight. It premieres right here on Comcast Cable Channel 23, a nice little concert film, produced, directed, edited, shot by my yours truly, myself, featuring our favorite band, local reggae jam band, Fatty Roots, with some great performances by them this past spring, summer, and fall mixed into one concert film, and you can see it here. You can also see it on YouTube, my Scott Ross Productions YouTube channel. Check it out there. It'll be up on Facebook. They're already started to share it on their Facebook page, Fatty Roots Facebook page. So you can find all that stuff. Just search it out, Fatty Roots, live and direct, or just tune in here tonight at 10 o'clock and check that out. All right, let's see. It's still the same old story. My right-hand man, Mr. Bob Rod Jr., is doing the directing, and he is out there in the control room, and his show Spotlight On Tuesday nights at 9, Wednesdays at 12. And there you see the number, 203-792-4101. I used to be able to talk to Bob. Now we have to wait for Mike, the Met Maniac, Jet Main Fanatic, to show up midway through the show, so I have somebody to talk to. But you, the viewer, could actually call in, 203-792-4101. Where's Strange Man? Haven't heard from him yet in the new year. He's still out basking in the glory of the Red Sox championship, I'm sure. But anybody could call in if you want to talk a little sports or anything else. You can do that. And then in the control room, also running audio, Tyler is out there, and he's doing a good job. And Tyler is getting excited because his Saints will actually be playing a meaningful game this weekend. It's been a little while. They've been on cruise control, resting players, getting a bye week. They're going to have to ratchet it up quick because the defending champions are coming to New Orleans. So we'll see. And Tyler's prediction off air last week before the playoffs even started, he said the Saints are going to win the Super Bowl. Feeling pretty confident. We'll get into more of that in a minute. Let's talk first, though, about a college football championship that went down the other night, Monday. And what happened? Whoa. Clemson rolled the Tide. It's usually Bama saying roll Tide. They got rolled, all right. 44-16 as Clemson just thumped Bama in this one. The third meeting of these two teams in the national championship game. Fourth meeting in the college football playoffs. This time it is Clemson winning for the second time out of the three championship games now against Bama, 44-16 in an absolute smackdown, which was very surprising. And it moved Clemson to 15-0 on the season in this ultimate final game for them. First team since the late 1800s to go 15-0. I think it was the Penn Quakers who did it back then in like 1897 or something like that. So it's been a long time coming since the team went 15-0, and they did it, and they did it in emphatic fashion. Remember, as they crushed Notre Dame the week before, and here they just crushed Bama, who everybody thought was maybe the best team of all time. But no, it was Clemson maybe taking the claim to Bama being the best team of all time. As I'm having a little audio problem, perhaps. We'll check that out, perhaps. A little okay, making a slight adjustment. And as Candy comes out and gives a nice little hand signal. That was well done, Candy. But Clemson gets it done with their freshman quarterback leading the way. Trevor Lawrence goes 20 of 32, 374 yards, 3 TDs, and it all added up to a big beatdown for Clemson. It was the worst loss in Nick Saban's career, basically, certainly at his time in Alabama. It was the first time Alabama lost by more than 16 points in a game since Nick Saban led LSU beat them by more than 16 points way back when he was coaching LSU. It was also the lowest rated college football championship game. So maybe some fatigue from these two teams dominating the sport as they have done in the last 4 years. And not everybody was all that excited about seeing these two teams match up again. And then the game got out of hand. So people, I'm sure, tuned out instead of tuning in, as sometimes you can build the audience as a close game turns into a good one, and then more people tune in as the night goes on. But that didn't happen. So hats off to Clemson. My niece, of course, who went to Clemson and got married earlier in the year to a Clemson graduate himself. They were down south. My dad lives 10, 15 minutes away from Clemson University. They were all quite happy, I'm sure, and my family was jumping for joy as Clemson got this done, winning their third title overall, second in 3 years. Well done by them. We'll mention real quick just college basketball since we're on the theme of college football, and then we'll go to NFL. Just to run down the top 10, Duke, number 1, Michigan, Tennessee, number 3, Virginia, we've seen this story before, Virginia, number 4, Gonzaga, we've also seen this story before, number 5, Michigan State, Kansas, Texas Tech, interesting, Virginia Tech in the top 10, and Nevada rounding out the top 10. So some interesting teams in the mix there with the Tennessees, Virginia Techs, Nevadas, Texas Tech. And then as far as in UConn's division, the American Athletic Conference, Houston is the only team right now representing the top 25 at 17, although they lost, I think, last night, so they'll probably drop. And then interesting, we'll mention St. John's, first time in the top 25 in a while, coming in at 24, getting some love for the Johnnies, and Chris Mullen getting it done. UConn now is 9-6, 0-2 in conference. They've lost their first 2 games in conference. They play tonight, as a matter of fact, at Gamble against SMU, comes in at 10-4. Last 3 games, all losses. Villanova, 81-58. South Florida, 76-68. And Central Florida, 65-53. Not good. And SMU is a tough team as well. So it's going to be tough for them to go 1-2 and move to 10-6, but they're going to have to get a win, and they're going to have to get a win soon, or else this season that started with promise is going to fall apart very fast for new coach Danny Hurley and the UConn Huskies up there in Storrs, Connecticut. All right, NFL divisional round is upon us. Starts Saturday afternoon with Indy at Kansas City. The Colts come in at 11-6. Chiefs, the number 1 seed, at 12-4. Indy, last week I mentioned, started 1-4. They actually started 1-5. So they are now 10-1 in their last 11. Pretty impressive, including that victory against the Texans this past week as they cruised in the first half of that game, up 21-0. The Texans missed all their chances, really, to make this a game. 2 fourth-down attempts, including right at the end of the half, where they could have made it 21-7, and they got the ball at the first half as Bob just decides to cruise right into those Cowboys-Seahawks pictures before I get to that game. Hey, here we go, back to the Texans-Colts. Those were the chances the Texans had on 4th down. They just couldn't get it done. They couldn't get anything done offensively. A really poor showing by them, and the Colts cruised, and they let off the gas in the second half, and it was 21-7 final in that game. Second game of the night is Saturday night. Dallas at the Rams. 11-6 Cowboys head to the 13-3 2-seed LA Rams. Cowboys held off the Seahawks. This game was close. They were actually losing, I think, going into the fourth. They got 2 touchdowns, went up by 2 scores, and then the Seahawks got the classic backdoor cover, and a lot of gamblers were disappointed because the Seahawks kicker, Janikowski, pulled his hamstring in the first half of this game, so they couldn't kick extra points. So they had to go for the 2-point conversion, including late in the game. Instead of cutting it to 3, they went for 2, got it, cut it to 2. The point spread in that game was 2.5. So if you had the Cowboys plus, you lost that, or because the Seahawks covered late on the backdoor cover in that game. So the Cowboys head to LA, and it should be a good one. The Cowboys have lived well at home. They're only 3-5 on the road this year, including getting that late meaningless game against the Giants last week of the season. So they have not been a good road team, much better at home. Remember, they got shut out by the Colts recently on the road. So we know the Cowboys on the road have been not so good, but they do bring in a pretty good defense, and they do bring in a good rushing attack. And the Rams defensively have been terrible against the run, so we'll see how that plays out. Rams need to get their act together and get it going fast. Remember, the Rams did make the playoffs last year, so even though this is a young team, they did get a little taste of the playoffs last year. Maybe that can bode well for them as they can get a home win and move on to the NFC Championship game next week if they can knock off the Cowboys in this one. And we'll see what happens there. Sunday's action will pit the 13-4 Los Angeles Chargers at the New England Patriots, who come in at 11-5. So the Chargers actually had a better regular season than the Patriots did, and they will head to New England in Foxborough after knocking off the Ravens in what was another disappointing game, really, as the Ravens couldn't get anything going until late in the fourth quarter. They were down 18-3 in this game. It was 12-0 as the Chargers' first points all came on field goals, and then they finally got a touchdown to make it, I think, 20-3 as a matter of fact, and then a field goal to make it 23-3. It was 23-10. The Ravens somehow, amazingly, had the football with a chance to win this game, down by less than a full 7 points as they lost 23-17. So that was surprising, but a fumble late in this game as the Chargers defense came up big when they had to against the rookie quarterback for the Ravens, who everybody was starting to call for Flacco before he went hot in the fourth quarter. But it wasn't to be as the rookie couldn't get it done. The Chargers now, interestingly enough, are 9-0 outside of LA this year. They're 8-1 now on the road all told. They lost one game in a road game at the LA Rams, so that was a game they did not have to leave LA. Other than that, they won all other 8 road games, including this playoff game, and they won a home game which was played in London. So anytime they have gotten on a plane and left LA, they have won this year at 9-0. Some history between the Patriots and the Chargers. Most famously, most people will remember the 2006 game when the Chargers were 14-2, number 1 seed that year, and favored to go to the Super Bowl. And the Patriots had a down season that year, went in there with a pretty limited team. Rashae Caldwell, Troy Brown were the number 1 and 2 receivers for the Patriots that year. And they somehow came up with a 24-21 victory in San Diego. They were losing that game, and Brady threw an interception, and Troy Brown stripped the defender of the ball as he was trying to make a return to turn the turnover back into a turnover. Patriots scored, got a field goal, and they won it 24-21 to upset the Chargers. Now, the big deal about this game was afterwards, the Patriots made fun of the Chargers by celebrating with the lights out Sean Merriman sack dance victory celebration on the Chargers field, which led to crybaby LaDainian Tomlinson crying a river and calling the Patriots classless in his press conference saying he would never do something like that to a team on the road, which was just as pathetic as it gets. I never could understand why everybody tried to call him LT anyways, so everybody knows there's only one LT, and that's Lawrence Taylor, and Lawrence Taylor would never cry after a defeat like that. So it was disgraceful by him to get all teary-eyed in his press conference after losing a game that they should have won at home with a 14-2 record against a Patriots team which was not that great that year. So that is the history there. The follow-up was 2007 when the Patriots loaded up, bringing in Randy Moss and making a staking their claim for an undefeated season, going 18-0 before eventually losing to Bob's G-Men in that Super Bowl to go 18-1. But the Chargers played the Patriots in that playoff game, AFC Championship in New England, and Phillip Rivers actually gutted that game out on a torn ACL. Where was LaDainian Tomlinson? I believe he was injured and out in that game, so he didn't have to cry afterwards like he did the year before. No respect ever I had for LDT is what I thought they wanted to call him, if they wanted to call him anything. He could have had a little, marketing campaign with the flour company, I believe, if they did it right. But instead, they tried to call him LT. I say once again, there was only one LT, and he never cried after a football game, and that was Lawrence Taylor. Got any thoughts about that, Mike McFadden, as he walks in, and the crybaby Tomlinson, who eventually ended up on your Jets?
Yes.
Had a pretty good year for you guys, I think, 1 year, right?
Yes, he did.
I'll never let him live that down, and any chance I get, I bring it up. And since the Chargers are playing the Patriots this weekend, I feel it was only fitting to remind everybody what took place. But I do have respect for Phil Rivers, Phillip, as he likes to be called. And I do like the Chargers overall. I think the Chargers are going to give the Patriots everything they can handle this weekend. I have said throughout the year, maybe in the AFC, much like I think the Saints in the NFC are the most balanced team because they can play defense, they can run, and they can pass. I've been a little surprised that the Chargers haven't scored more points this year in their games. A lot of the games were closer than I thought they needed to be, especially against mediocre and secondary teams. And they had some great comebacks against good teams. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough game for the Patriots. It's at 1 o'clock on Sunday. It's going to be much colder in New England this weekend than it was in Baltimore. It was in the mid-50s and sunny. Remember, we mentioned that the Chargers had to come across the country and play that early 1 o'clock game. So a West Coast team playing basically at 10 o'clock their time on the East Coast is never a good thing for an NFL team, West Coast NFL team. They're going to have to do it a second week in a row. It'll be maybe sunny, partly cloudy, partly sunny, and it'll be early. So at least if it's not windy, it won't feel terrible, but it's only going to be in the mid-20s on Sunday in New England. So it's going to be much colder for the Chargers to deal with. You got any thoughts on this Patriots-Chargers game for Sunday? What are your thoughts coming into that game there, Mike?
I think the Chargers are going to be a tough team. If they can get over, the mistake of playing the Patriots, I think they have a good chance. So their team is built to beat them. Like you said, they have a good offense. Their defense is very good also, so it should be a good game. If Phillip Rivers can stay away from, making any mistakes, big mistakes, I think it's going to be a good game.
Could be revenge for them for some of those bitter losses. That 2006 one for sure. 2007, they clearly were not favored to win that game. They did give them actually a pretty decent game, and the Patriots, of course, were undefeated then. But the 2006 one still has to haunt the Chargers as a game they should have won, and that would have been the year that they could have gotten to the Super Bowl. I will also mention that after that, the Patriots went to the Colts, Indianapolis, in what goes down as one of the most horrifically fixed officiated games of all time, as the Patriots ran up to that early lead before the officials said, wait a second, we want the Colts to finally get past the Patriots, and it was one of the more hideously officiated. I mean, when you have people who hate the Patriots coming up to you and saying, man, you got jobbed in that game. You know the game was fixed. And anybody can go back and look at the tape in that game, and you will see every call that took place, starting with the offensive pass interference on Troy Brown, which eliminated them from going up by like 28 in the first half. They kept that in striking distance for the Colts, who then went on to win that only Super Bowl they got with Manning in Indy, as they beat the Bears in that slop fest in a terribly played game in 2006. All right, little history. I'm going down the road there. The other game on Sunday will be Eagles. Oh, the Bears. Eagles at Saints. Eagles coming in at 10-7. How did the NFC, which really had the worst teams coming in record-wise, NFC East, I mean, have the worst teams record-wise, have two teams left now in the playoffs? The Eagles 10-7, defending champions at the Saints, number 1 seed, 13-3. Eagles just destroyed the hearts of the Bears, or maybe it was the kicker who destroyed the hearts of the Bears. What is it with the NFC North with those teams, the Vikings, the Bears, and field goal kickers, and heartbreaking field goal misses for these teams? A 43-yarder in this day and age in the NFL should be pretty much automatic. The weather conditions were fine. There was no problem with the weather. But this kid missed 10 kicks on the year. How is he even their kicker coming into this playoff game? How are you going to let your season come down to a kick where your guy has missed 10 on the year, the most misses in the NFL? Oh, the Bears. I feel terrible for them because, they should have won this game. But I thought also play call wise, they made a couple mistakes. When they got the ball and they were up 15-10, and they should have done a little bit more with the ball. I thought also maybe a little question mark going for 2 early in the fourth quarter. I think at that point you send a message to your team, you're chasing points instead of saying, hey, we got the defense, we got the lead, let's just take the extra point. It turned out they would have needed it probably, but you don't know. The game may be played a different way if you just take that extra point and go up 6. But anyways, when they got the ball down around their 20, play calling wasn't great, and they went 3 and out, and they got sacked, and then they got a terrible punt, which gave the Eagles good field position, which led to that drive, which gave them the go-ahead score to put them up 16-15 on 4th down. And they converted that 3rd down and 9 just after the 2-minute warning. The Bears defense has to come up with a play better than that there, instead of just letting the Eagles throw right over the middle in that possession to get that 1st and goal around the 5-yard line. And then the Bears came up with 3 straight plays in a row to stop them, set up that 4th down. They called their timeouts to make sure they conserved for the offensive possession if the Eagles did score. The Eagles did score. Golden Tate, the trade that they made midseason, came through for them. They scored it. And then the Bears get a great kick return, and they go down the field, and they get down. And on 3rd down, I thought they should have tried to get more yardage, and instead they just lofted a pass down the middle of the field to the end zone. It was basically like a Hail Mary give-up play. Instead of throwing a quick out to the sideline where you get some yardage to get a little bit closer and you get your guy out of bounds, they set up for the 43-yard field goal. The kid misses it. Eagles win 16-15. They head to the Saints. Now, what do you think about the Saints, Mike? They've been resting, obviously, with the bye. Rested players in the final week of the season because they didn't need the game. They haven't really played a legitimate, tough, meaningful game in a while, and the Eagles have been playing playoff games for the last 4 weeks, basically, as they needed to win out in the regular season final 3 weeks.
Right.
So how do you think that plays out for them? Are they going to be able to ratchet it up quick, or are the Eagles going to be, playing a step ahead because their intensity has been a little bit higher?
Yeah, I think this is a game where the Saints have to get out into the lead, because it's just like you said. I think if the Eagles get a lead in this game, I think people are going to start thinking back to last year and that this is a team
Foles.
that's on the run. And Nick Foles is another thing. If he gets going, the Eagles are going to be tough. They're going to be tough to beat in that game.
7-0 now, Nicky Foles in the last 2 years, facing basically elimination in regular season and/or playoffs, games that they had to win to continue. So the Saints, I think, are definitely clearly the favorite. That was the other thing. How about that? 3 road victories last year of the 4 games. All 4 underdogs covered, and it was the lowest combined lines, only 11 points combined for all the spreads in those games last week, which was interesting. 4 underdogs covered last week, 3 road victories. We will see. We only got a few minutes left. It's going to be some good games. We'll see what happens. And the Eagles do bring in, I believe, it's the number 2 defense in the NFC. The Bears had the number 1. All right, NBA, I'm just going to mention some things real quick. Celtics now have won 5 in a row. Remember, they had won 8 in a row, and then they lost 2 or 3 pretty ugly games. They did have a couple injuries around that time, but they seem to be finding their way. They're still in 5th place at 25-15 in the East here, but they had a huge win against the Pacers last night, 135-108. Great win for them. I think 5 players in double figures in that. The Nets are right behind the Celtics at 21-22, and in some of these pictures we're showing, former Husky, one of my favorites all time, Shabazz Napier, playing for the Nets now. So if you're interested in some former Huskies, we always talk about Kemba with the Hornets, who are an 8th seed right now at in the East. But the Nets, 21-22 in 6th place right now. Very good for them. The Knicks are losing often, but they did beat up on the Lakers the other night, who have fallen to the 8th seed without Bron, who's never had any injuries before, really. And now this hamstring has kept him out, groin actually, which is tough to come back from. And the Lakers are falling to the 8th spot right now. So it was nice to see the Knicks get a win, even though they haven't been winning really at all. And they're probably looking to trade a bunch of players. But the Celtics, good also to see them back. NHL, the NHL is just a completely competitive sport, is what I'm convinced. Because the Islanders at 23-14-4, 8-2-2, are now outside of the playoffs. 3rd place in the wild card, and 2 points out of the wild card, or 1 out of the wild card and 1 out of the top 3 of the Metro, which would also get them in the playoffs. The Bruins, 25-14-4, still 8-2-0 in the last 10, also like the Islanders, are still 3rd in the Atlantic. It is tough to advance in the NHL. You have got to play every night. You've got to win all the time. I mean, those are good records, and those are good streaks recently as well for both of those teams, and the Islanders would not even be a playoff team right now. Rangers are way out of it now, falling fast, 3-5-2 in their last 10, 17-18-7 overall, 41 points, way behind in 6th place of the wild card right now. And we got some of these good shots from last week on New Year's Day when the Bruins went to Chicago and won that game outside in Chicago, which was a great one. All right, we're running out of time. I will plug Fatty Roots live and direct once again. It premieres tonight at 10 o'clock right here on Channel 23. Check it out. A nice concert film, the Reggae Jam Band local that I produced, and I think it's pretty good. I think you'll enjoy it. Check it out. We'll see you next week.